Hanbin, despite his potential, is relegated to the role of a porter. While Burkeman's party battles monsters, he can only stand by and watch. At least they're fair enough to split the profits evenly with him, which is more generosity than most hunters would show. As he waits quietly, a Lord de Volk, a level 25 monster, suddenly spots him. With casual ease, Hanbin eliminates it in a single strike using a stone bullet. Instead of celebrating, he's irritated. The system refuses to give him any experience, claiming the monster was too low level. He makes a mental note to ask Burkeman if he can face stronger prey next time. The fight ends, and the party shifts into gathering mode. Hanbin watches in fascination as Burkeman's group harvests monster organs worth a fortune, and Erwin proudly shows off a magic stone valued 15 times more than usual. To his surprise, he doesn't feel sick at the grisly sight. After carving up countless hell dogs, this is nothing. His speed and skill at organizing the spoils astonish the others, and when asked, he reveals he's been doing this kind of labor for 20 years, despite only being 24. The revelation shocks them even more when they learn he was kidnapped as a child and forced to work since the age of 4. Burkeman, touched, warmly calls him family, and the group consoles him. Hanbin silently acknowledges how kind these people truly are. Burkeman then shares something unexpected. Levels don't actually mean everything. He himself has been stuck at level 25 for 5 years, yet he's one of the strongest tanks around. Erwin explains that truly high-level monsters only dwell in dungeons, not on the surface. Amber quickly adds they have no intention of going to such places, satisfied with surface hunts. The words stun Hanbin, who sneaks off to practice his sword skills, while Erwin is left feeling uneasy, knowing everyone believes he's an otherworlder. Wandering in the forest, Hanbin grows frustrated. Every monster he encounters is far too weak to give him experience. Remembering Effa and the Lord Devolk, he realizes unique monsters are rare and valuable. Just as he considers leaving, a strange howl echoes through the woods. Thinking it might be a powerful creature, he rushes toward it, only to find Atisse, the mage from Laude's party, stripped naked in the forest. The bizarre situation throws him off, but before he can quietly leave, Atisse stops him, accusing him of being suspicious. Atisse demands the truth, even threatening him with magic. Hanbin grows tense, gripping his sword, but the mage admits his anger got the better of him and softens his tone. Things almost settle, until Laude suddenly appears. He lashes out, accusing Hanbin of humiliating Siguri and now trying to make a move on his female party member. Atisse tries to calm him, but Laude won't listen. Fueled by rage, Laude unleashes his thunder lightning sword technique, aiming to kill. Hanbin, unwilling to escalate, bows his head in apology, just as the strike explodes against his back. The blow injures Laude himself instead, leading to a serious, humiliating wound. Erwin later heals him, but the damage to his pride and worse, his body, is irreparable. Whispers spread, and though blame doesn't directly fall on Hanbin, the entire situation leaves him deeply unsettled. Months pass. Burkeman's party continues their hunts, camping near the Sath forest. Rumors spread that Laude recklessly ventured alone into a dungeon, a move Amber likens to suicide. Hanbin is confused. Laude's level is high, but Amber explains Burkeman's strength came from surviving against indigenous monsters, not dungeon beasts. Dungeon monsters, she explains, are created by the evil god Ormlus and are far stronger, often level 30 or higher. To Hanbin, this sounds like exactly the challenge he needs to level up. Though Burkeman warns that both dangerous monsters and rival otherworlders lurk inside, Hanbin's curiosity burns. He also learns Laude may be seeking a healing artifact rumored to cure any wound. That night, when the others sleep, Hanbin sneaks into the Sath forest. The eerie woods make him uneasy, but soon he encounters something unexpected, a level 31 Tatiro, a dungeon monster with a body so tough it can nullify sword attacks, though vulnerable to magic. Worse, another joins in, and to his shock, they begin speaking in broken human language. Their confidence is unsettling, but Hanbin charges forward. One of the Tatiros tries to escape through a dungeon portal beneath a tree, but Hanbin casually uproots the entire tree, leaving the monster cornered. Confused, he wonders if dungeon monsters escaping into the forest are pushing out the native ones, a strange phenomenon he's never heard of before. Hanbin presses the Tatiro for answers about the portal, demanding to know who created it. but the monster insists it has no idea. When Hanbin threatens to destroy the portal entirely, the Tatiro panics and blurts out a warning. No one is supposed to enter, as per the direct order of that person. Hanbin wonders who this mysterious figure might be, but ultimately doesn't care. He leaves the Tatiro behind to guard the portal so that no one discovers his entry, then leaps inside. Behind him, the terrified creature desperately covers the portal with dirt, hoping no one will ever notice. Inside the dungeon, chaos reigns. A struggling party of hunters is locked in battle against the durable Tatiros. The boy warrior swings his axe in frustration, finding it useless against their armored hides, while Alicia, the party's mage, is ensnared by a monster's crushing grip. She manages to unleash a flash spell, blinding the Tatiro, and accidentally half-blinding her comrade too. Desperate, the boy calls for Runol, their healer, only to realize he's already dead. With Alicia's life on the line and his own strength failing, the boy screams for help. That's when salvation comes, not from Hanbin, but from Laude. In a dazzling display, he slices through a Tatiro's neck, a feat the boy himself had failed at earlier, when the monster shielded its vulnerable spot with its bladed arms. Laude's flawless timing and dual-wielding technique force the beast to drop its guard before he finishes it with lightning speed. The boy is awestruck, recognizing Laude as the prideful hunter rumored to have entered this dungeon months ago. In truth, Laude has been trapped here for 70 long days, surviving by sheer stubbornness after drunkenly blacking out in Onrest City and somehow waking up inside the dungeon. Alone and unable to escape, he's endured until now. Though gravely injured from his past battles, Laude shares a healing potion with Alicia, brushing off her gratitude by admitting the potion won't work on his own wound anyway. His only concern is that she be fit to walk. Otherwise, escape would be impossible. Alicia promises to repay him someday, while Laude urges the group to retreat immediately. Though Alicia resists, not wanting to appear weak, Laude hides his own suffering, secretly struggling with illness and exhaustion. Before they can leave, the dungeon itself trembles violently. Alicia reminds them that dungeons exist in another dimension, so earthquakes are impossible. Something far worse is coming. Monsters swarm, and Laude orders the party down a side path while he stays to confront the threat. Alicia is horrified. How could one man take on so many Tatiros? The boy reluctantly carries her away, believing their staying would only burden Laude. Left alone, the prideful hunter steels himself. His recent level-ups give him confidence, but when an overwhelming horde of Tatiros appears, he realizes even he cannot stand his ground. Instead of attacking, however, the monsters strangely pass by, muttering words like run and danger in broken speech, leaving Laude baffled. Elsewhere, Hanbin is tearing through Tatiros with terrifying ease. Yet he's frustrated again. The dungeon, despite its reputation, still offers him no experience points. The cavern is too fragile for him to freely swing his sword, and the monsters are so terrified of his strength that they scatter in panic. Only a few remain, sacrificing themselves to cover their allies' escape. After wiping them out, Hanbin stumbles upon a fireball bracelet, an artifact that allows the user to cast fireball magic. For any hunter, it would be a priceless treasure, yet Hanbin discovers he can't use it. The system demands level 31. Annoyed, he calls it trash, knowing he can't even sell it without raising suspicion. Still, he pockets it, bemused by the idea of hunters coveting such dangerous tools when artifacts often become the downfall of those who find them. Following the dungeon's winding passages, Hanbin eventually reaches the boss's chamber. Strangely, it's empty. No monsters, no guardian, just the artifact resting in plain sight. Suspicious, he loudly taunts the room, shouting that he'll take the magic source, hoping to lure something out. At first, nothing happens. Then suddenly, tentacles lash out, wrapping tightly around his arms. Hanbin faces up and finally sees the dungeon boss, a level 45 tentacle beholder, a grotesque monster covered in writhing appendages. For once, he's hopeful. Maybe this opponent will finally grant him some experience. But before he can even test that theory, the monster coils its tentacles around his arms and legs, immobilizing him. In this vulnerable state, one solid strike would be the end of him. That's when Laude suddenly enters through the chamber's central door. Hanbin freezes, sweat running down his face, not from the monster, but from panic. He had been calculating his odds of survival against the beholder, only to realize now that Laude has walked in on him mid-struggle. Worse yet, Laude misreads the situation entirely. Seeing Hanbin bound by tentacles, he assumes that Hanbin isn't human at all, but a conjured phantom created by the dungeon boss to exploit a victim's fears. Convinced it's just a cheap trick, Laude declares that no level 5 hunter could possibly have made it here and demands the monster drop the act. Sensing an opportunity, Hanbin plays along, pretending to be the dungeon boss in disguise. Laude doesn't hesitate. He launches a furious assault. The real tentacle beholder joins the fray, lashing out with its countless limbs at incredible speed, exploiting blind spots from every angle. Hanbin, while maintaining his act, secretly saves Laude from certain death multiple times, deflecting or cutting away tentacles without the prideful hunter even realizing it. But in protecting Laude, Hanbin nearly sacrifices something precious. The positioning of the fight places Laude's blade dangerously close to his groin. In a panic, Hanbin launches himself skyward, narrowly avoiding what he calls a farewell to his future kids. The jump is so overpowered that he smashes the beholder against the ceiling. Strangely, Hanbin is more embarrassed about the possibility of ripping his pants than the near-death experience. To his disappointment, the beholder proves far weaker than expected. Laude, meanwhile, goes berserk. Fueled by pride and rage, he swings wildly, blaming the supposed phantom Hanbin for every misery he's endured in the dungeon. In his delirium, he even rages that Hanbin stole everything from him, including atisse. In this unstable state, Laude falls under the beholder's psychic influence, becoming its puppet. Through him, the tentacle beholder finally speaks, seething with hatred at Hanbin for mocking and toying with it. It boasts that Hanbin won't dare strike it down now that Laude is a hostage, promising that being killed by a companion is the cruelest fate. Hanbin, unfazed, mockingly offers to hand Laude over in exchange for some experience. The beholder decides instead to turn Laude into a mid-boss, planning to devour him alive after massacring humans. Unlike most dungeon bosses, the tentacle beholder doesn't rely on brute force. It uses its immense intelligence to manipulate minds, turning captured victims into enhanced parasitic hosts. It tries to break Hanbin's will, sneering that no matter how strong he pretends to be, he will never strike down a comrade. But unexpectedly, Laude begins to resist. The beholder's control falters, and it realizes too late that Hanbin is on a completely different level. As Hanbin casually lowers his sword, the boss panics. This wasn't a mere level 5 hunter. This was a being far beyond its comprehension. The beholder dies in shock and disbelief, its last thoughts filled with dread. If someone like Hanbin exists, even opening portals won't matter. The dungeon will collapse the moment he leaves. Hanbin finishes the monster off, earning an astronomical 113,240 experience points. At first, he's thrilled, especially when he recalls that Helldogs only gave him 258 experience, and leveling from 4 to 5 only required 1,000. By that math, he should skyrocket in levels. But his excitement shatters when the guidelines reveal the cruel truth. To reach level 6, he needs 54.5 billion experience. Leveling up is essentially impossible. The next morning, Burkeman's party is stretching when Irwin panics that Hanbin is missing. Just as she fears he might have returned to the forest alone, Hanbin strolls back with a monster corpse slung casually over his shoulder, startling everyone. He apologizes for worrying them, but keeps his shocking discovery about the experience system to himself. The group spends the week searching for monsters, but the dungeon's collapse has left the land barren. With nothing left to hunt, they decide to return early to Onrest City. At the gates, guards demand a special pass before entry, something new that wasn't required before. The coachman argues furiously, but the guard explains it's a direct order from the higher-ups. Fortunately, Burkeman's identity clears the party, though the guard, Goleman, warns them of recent upheavals. The Iphon Plains dungeon has been cleared, triggering an emergency recall of all hunters. Inside the city, Hanbin grows uneasy. He never took the dungeon's magic source, so someone else must have cleared it in his absence. Burkeman explains that clearing a dungeon is a great honor, though often hidden by otherworlders. Amber suggests the culprits were heresy inquisitors, fanatical agents of the Brotherhood who torture and execute suspected otherworlders, often targeting hunters above level 20. Hanbin realizes that even Burkeman and Amber, both beyond level 20, are in danger. Burkeman insists they set the matter aside and focus on their goals. First, they'll exchange magic stones at the guild. Hanbin is tasked with selling monster materials at Bolton's shop. Bolton, however, refuses outright. He doesn't want to be entangled with Inquisitors no matter the price. Hanbin presses, offering to sell at a fraction of the cost, but Bolton still refuses. At that moment, a tall, imposing figure from the Brotherhood enters. Hanbin instinctively tries to check his level, but it doesn't appear. Something only possible if the man's level is immeasurable. The stranger notices Hanbin's reaction and begins questioning him with unnerving precision. Why didn't he flinch? Why isn't he afraid? What god does he worship? When Hanbin replies that he's an atheist, the Inquisitor presses further, asking about fairy tales. Hanbin lies that he grew up an orphan and knows none. The man summarizes his answers coldly, then labels him suspicious. His final word lands like a knife, otherworlder. The Inquisitor narrows his eyes at Hanbin, clearly unconvinced by his words. To be sure, he invokes his ability to check Hanbin's level. What he finds leaves him stunned. Hanbin really is only level 5. The man is baffled. With Hanbin's towering physique and calm demeanor, he had fully expected someone far stronger. Hanbin, wanting to move past the interrogation, refocuses on Bolton, who's been watching the exchange in awe. Bolton is quietly impressed. Very few hunters could stand their ground so boldly before a heresy Inquisitor. To Hanbin's relief, the Inquisitor admits his error, apologizes and begins walking away. Only then does Hanbin finally let out the breath he's been holding, nearly collapsing from nerves. His heart pounds so hard he feels like it might explode. He had thought his low level would shield him from suspicion, but this encounter has convinced him that the Dark Brotherhood is anything but normal. Still, he didn't even manage to confirm the Inquisitor's level. Bolton, unfazed by the tension, digs through Hanbin's bag to examine the goods. That's when he finds something dangerous, the fireball bracelet magic source. Hanbin's heart skips. He'd forgotten about it. Desperate, he tries to tuck it away before the Brotherhood notices, but in his panic, the artifact slips and falls directly at the Inquisitor's feet. The man picks it up, his tone immediately shifting. A level 5 with an artifact? Impossible. Where had Hanbin gotten it? Hanbin feigns ignorance, pretending he has no idea what the trinket is. Surprisingly, the Inquisitor doesn't push too hard. Like everyone else, he assumes a low-level hunter couldn't possibly have ventured into a dungeon. Handing the artifact back, the Inquisitor instead decides to offer Hanbin something else. A story. He recounts an incident from 15 years ago. A veteran hunter, well-respected though not a leader, once froze before a monster that appeared weak. His companions mocked him, unable to grasp his fear. Under pressure, he confessed the truth. He was an otherworlder, able to see levels. The monster's true strength was over 80. When the party refused to believe him, the hunter stayed behind to buy time, facing the monster alone. At this point, the Inquisitor asks Hanbin who he thinks died. Hanbin answers logically that the otherworlder must have perished. The Inquisitor shakes his head. In fact, the otherworlder survived. Everyone else, save for the party leader who betrayed him, was slaughtered. That leader had sold him out to the Dark Brotherhood, ensuring his own safety. The otherworlder returned home, but when the village heard rumors of what he was, they burned his house and cast him out. Consumed by rage, he massacred everyone involved. The Inquisitor finishes with a grim lesson. Those tied to otherworlders are doomed to misfortune. But he muses, what fault could a simple level 5 like Hanbin have? Then comes the warning. Artifacts often surface because otherworlders pawn them off using hunters as cover. Hanbin realizes this is why the man let him go. For now. Still, the Inquisitor demands details about Hanbin's party. Hanbin clenches his fists, ready to gamble everything on a surprise attack. But before he can strike, Issei jumps in. Playing the role of an arrogant ally, Issei scolds Hanbin like a child, calling him a useless meathead for mishandling the artifact. Hanbin tries to speak, but Issei shuts him up, smoothly steering the conversation. Then, as if presenting credentials, he introduces himself. Issei Benister of the dragon hunter Benister family. The Inquisitor freezes. The Benisters were thought extinct, yet Issei's amulet proves his lineage. Though Ise admits he is weak, he claims he's striving to revive his fallen family. The Brotherhood member, suddenly more respectful, apologizes for appearing before him in full mask and uniform. It is, after all, his duty. But he eyes both Hanbin and Ice carefully, curious about their connection. Atisse quickly backs Ice's cover, lying that Hanbin was merely a porter hired for a recent quest. She adds that he's new to the city and doesn't know much. Hanbin is stunned. Why is Ise lying to protect him? The mage continues to elaborate, spinning the tale that Hanbin was only tasked to deliver the artifact for research. Catching on, Hanbin plays along, even offering the Brotherhood a respectful farewell with their own phrase, "May the blessings of the darkness be with you." The Inquisitor accepts and prepares to leave, but just before he does, he tests them one last time, asking what ability the artifact has. Hanbin and Ice panic, blurting out different answers. Their cover crumbles. The Inquisitor closes the distance instantly, his presence suffocating, and orders them to follow him. Hanbin grows increasingly desperate to level up, his obsession pushing him to the edge of madness. Suddenly, a familiar voice pulls him back. Burkeman. Snapping out of his spiral, Hanbin finds himself in the company of his old friend. The sturdy tank reassures him, reminding him that while this may be Hanbin's first time in a real party, there's nothing to fear. To mark the occasion, he offers Hanbin a dish prepared by Amber as a welcome gift, though he jokingly admits he can't vouch for the taste, prompting Amber's irritation. She sternly advises Hanbin that once he steps onto the battlefield, he must think of it as a war. Unlike Burkeman, she hasn't fully accepted him, declaring that they don't need a brat who complains about food. Hanbin wonders if the tank's companions tampered with his portion, but dismisses the thought. No matter how bad it tastes, it can't be worse than hell dog meat, the only thing he'd eaten for decades. As he reflects, the warmth of sharing food with companions fills him with a forgotten feeling. The comfort of not being alone. Back in the present, Hanbin and Atisse stand before the Dark Brotherhood, who prepare to take them captive. Hanbin suspects their leader is using wind magic, but Atisse notices something unusual. The man isn't exerting mana. Instead, he's employing healing winds, a technique so rare and powerful that only high-level spiritualists can perform it. This revelation alarms both of them. Their enemy isn't just a priest, but a formidable one. Hanbin isn't confident under these circumstances. If he fights at full strength, he could win, but doing so would expose his secret. The Brotherhood's leader calmly explains that while their limbs may be cut during resistance, they'll survive as long as they remain inside the Healing Wind's barrier. His preference is simple: compliance. Hanbin weighs the risks and realizes there's no choice but surrender. He steps forward and negotiates. If he confesses to clearing the dungeon, will the Brotherhood leave the others unharmed? The leader agrees, withdrawing the Healing Winds. Hanbin then admits he was the one who cleared the dungeon. But before the confrontation can escalate further, Laude arrives with 2 rescued hunters, Alicia and the young boy. They immediately begin praising him, believing he single-handedly cleared the dungeon. Laude himself is convinced of it too, reasoning that he must have slain the boss and seized the dungeon source. The truth, that it was Hanbin who accomplished everything, remains hidden. Laude recounts how, after the dungeon vanished, he nearly starved wandering the barren plains, only to stumble upon these survivors.